We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast, everyone. This is Abe, your host. Just got home from work, had to take the long way home. We're getting hit with an ice storm. A dark winter is upon us. I do have to say, though, it kind of cracked me up. I was listening to the radio on the way home, and they had to delay the vaccines from getting here until next week. Because of the storm. And they're sitting there telling it like, oh, it's such a bad thing. No, I don't want your fucking shot, dude. I don't want it. You can keep it. And the sad thing is you're gonna make my life miserable until I give in. If I give in, which I won't, hopefully, but Jesus, man. Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone, But, yeah, work's been okay. It's been today was pretty busy. Last 2 days before that, though, were pretty slow. I'm working 6 days this week. I did an interview, a podcast interview, but, I'm not doing the editing. The actual other person is doing the editing. So that should come out. Knock on wood, hopefully pretty soon. If not, there's no rush, But it would be my third interview on this podcast, so that's kind of exciting. It is a reoccurring guest. It was Kenneth Sterling. We did an interview. The last interview we did was on Reiki. This one's on meditation, so figured people need some meditation in these dark times. But I'm not sure. Let's see, Valentine's. I won't wish you a happy Valentine's Day. Not yet. That's not till 4 days from now, and I don't see why I won't put out another podcast until then. But yeah, here in Kentucky we got an ice storm. I'm off tomorrow, so it don't matter anyways. But yeah. Today we are doing the last episode of Torture Devices. We did delve a little bit into a crushing torture that they put a Giles Corey through in Salem. And I wanted to do an episode just on that, but I decided, why don't I just tell the entire Salem witch trial story? So I did a part 1 of that, kind of. One rabbit hole led to another, but this will be the last episode of the torture device episodes. But yeah, today's torture device is branding, so we'll get started. Branding and maiming. There is nothing more abhorrent to the general sentiment of humanity today than the universal custom of all civilized nations until the present century of branding and maiming criminals. In these barbarous methods of degrading criminals, the colonists in America followed the customs and copied the laws of the fatherland. Our ancestors were not squeamish. The sight of a man lopped of his ears, or slit of his nostrils, or with a seared brand or great gash in his forehead or cheek could not affect the stout stomachs that cheerfully and eagerly gathered around the bloody whipping post and the gallows. Let us recount the welcome of the New England Christians to the first Quakers on American soil. In 1656, the vanguard two women, Anne Austin and Mary Fisher, appeared in Boston from Barbados. They were promptly imprisoned and speedily sent back whence they came, and a premonitory law was passed to punish shipmasters who presumed to bring over more Quakers. Others immediately followed her, however, and fierce laws and cruel sentences greeted them. Within 4 years after the first appearance, scores of Quakers had been stripped naked, whipped, pillared, stocked, caged, imprisoned, laid neck and heels, branded and maimed, and 4 had been hanged in Boston by our Puritan forefathers. I know nothing more chilling to our present glow of Puritan ancestor worship in New England than the reading of Quaker George Bishop's account of New England, judged by the Spirit of the Lord. Page after page of merciless cruelty is displayed in forcible, simple language. Here's an account of a Quaker's treatment in New Haven for worshiping God in his chosen way. The drum was beat, and people gathered. Norton was fetched and stripped to the waist, and set with his back to the magistrates, and given in their view 36 cruel stripes with a knotted cord, and his hand made fast in the stocks where they had set his body before, and burned very deep with a red-hot iron, with an H for heresy. Quaker women were punished with equal ferocity. Bishop says of Mary Clark, her tender body yet unmercifully tore with 20 stripes of a 3-fold corded knotted whip, as near as the hangman could all in one place, fetching his strokes with the greatest strength and advantage. The constables of 12 Massachusetts and New Hampshire towns were notified of 4 rogue and vagabond Quakers, named Anna Coleman, Mary Tompkins, Alice Andrews, and Alice Ambrose. You are enjoined to make them fast to the cart tail, and draw them through your several towns, and whip them on their naked backs, not exceeding 10 stripes in each town, and so convey them from constable to constable on your peril. These women were whipped until the blood ran down their shoulders and breast, and the men of the town of Salisbury, I wonder if they invented the Salisbury steak, sorry, in righteous wrath, and tore them away from the cart and the constables. Quakers were ordered never to return after being banished from any town. In the Massachusetts colonial records of the year 1657 read the penalty for disobediently returning. A Quaker, if male, for the first offense, shall have one of his ears cut off. For the second offense, have his other ear cut off. A woman shall be severely whipped. For the third offense, they, he or she, shall have their tongues bored through with a hot iron. So a tongue piercing with a hot iron. Cool. Punk rock, dude. They were also to be branded with the letter R on the right shoulder. They were called blasphemous heretics by the magistrates, and any who read books of their devilish opinions were to be punished with severity. New York and Virginia were likewise intolerant and cruel to the Quakers, but were less visited by them than Massachusetts. In the despotism of early Virginia, under the code of martial law established by Sir Thomas Dale, The fierceness of punishment was appalling. Possibly the arbitrariness was necessary to control the turbulent community, but the cruelty shocked Dale's successor, Governor Yeardley, who proclaimed that cruel laws by which the ancient planters had been governed should be abolished. Under the laws proclaimed by Dale, absence from church was a capital offense. One man was broken on the wheel. One of the few instances known in the colonies. Blasphemy was punished by boring the tongue with a red-hot bodkin. One offender was thus punished and chained to a tree to die. A Mr. Barnes of Bermuda Hundred, for uttering detracting words against another Virginia gentleman, was condemned to have his tongue bored through with an awl, to pass through a guard of 40 men, and be butted by every one of them. At the end, to be knocked down and footed out of the fort, which must have effectively finished Mr. Barnes of Virginia. Yet Dale was an ardent Christian, beloved by his pastor, who said he was, quote, a man of great knowledge in divinity and a good conscience in all things, unquote. He is an interesting figure in Virginia history, a sturdy watchdog, tearing and rending with a cruelty equal to his zeal every offender against the common weal. In Maryland, blasphemy was similarly punished. For the first offense the tongue was to be bored, and a fine paid of 20 pounds. For the second offense the blasphemer was to be stigmatized in his forehead with the letter B, and the fine was doubled. For the third offense the penalty was death. Until the reign of Queen Anne, the punishment of an English officer for blasphemy was boring the tongue with a hot iron. Okay, I keep thinking of the Scarlet Letter and how that was supposed to be like, hey, I don't know, I've never read it, but I just remember the chick got accused of adultery. I'm not sure if she did it or didn't, but like she had to wear a bright red letter A on her like clothing. And I'm comparing that to this, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, if she was innocent in the book, like I said, I never read it, sadly, but if she was innocent, yeah, that's harsh. But like for blasphemy, you get a B seared into your forehead. Like, that's pretty hardcore, dude. That, no offense, I don't really feel bad for cheaters. Sorry. Curious punishment for swearing was ordered by the president of the pioneer expedition into Virginia, as told by Captain John Smith. The English galleons who came to the colony for adventure or to escape punishment were very tender-handed. They were sent into the woods to cut down trees for clapboard, but their hands soon blistered under the heavy axe helves, and the pain caused them to frequently cry out in great oaths. The president ordered that every oath should be noted, and for each a can of water was poured down the sleeve of the person who had been guilty of uttering it. In Haddon, Derbyshire, England, is a relic of a similar punishment. An iron handcuff fastened to the woodwork of the banqueted hall. A sneak cup who, quote, balked his liquor, unquote, or anyone who committed any violation of the convivial customs of that day. Sorry I stutter on words like this, but this book was literally written in 1896. So yeah, Old English. Let's see. Where was I at now? Oh. And anyone who committed any violation of the convivial customs of that day in place had his wrist placed in the iron ring, and a can of cold water or the liquor he declined was poured up his sleeve. It is interesting to note, in the statutes of Virginia and Maryland, the honor that for decades hedged around the domestic hog. The crime of hog stealing, I don't know why that just got me giggling, stealing a pig, is minutely defined and specified and vested with bitter retribution. It was enacted by the Maryland Assembly that for the first offense, the criminal should stand in the pillory 4 complete hours, having his ears cropped and pay. That's where they get me. Like standing for 4 hours, I'm like, I can handle that. But like where they cut their ears off, that sucks. And pay treble damages. For the second offense, be stigmatized on the forehead with the letter H and pay triple damages. For the third, and adjudged a quote-unquote felon and therefore received capital punishment. In Virginia in 1748, the hog stealer for the first offense received 25 lashes well laid on at the public whipping post, which we did an episode on that too. So I'm going to leave a link for the whole playlist because I did make a playlist if you are into macabre subjects like me. Yeah, it gets into like the history of each torture device pretty much. It's insane. Different accounts of, sadly, victims of it. For the second offense, he was set 2 hours in the pillory and had both ears nailed thereto. At the end of the 2 hours, to have the ears slit loose. For the third offense, death. Were the culprit in either province a slave, the cruelty and punishment were doubled. For all hog stealers, whether bond or free, there was no benefit of clergy, which was ameliorating plea, permissible in some felonies of being able to read clerkly. It is evident that in early days this plea could not extend to a very large number in any community. It was originally a monkish privilege extended to English ecclesiastics in criminal processes in secular courts. It was granted originally in 1274 and was not abolished in England till 1827. The minutes of Court of General Quarter Sessions in New York bear many records of criminals who pleaded the benefit, and instead of hanging on a gallows were branded on the brawn of the left thumb with T in open court and then discharged. Benefit of clergy existed and was in force in New York State till February 21st, 1788. See, I could handle a little tiny burn with a little brand T on your left thumb. That's not bad. You can cover that shit up with a ring, too. In Salem, men and women offenders constantly pleaded commutation through benefit of clergy. In 1750, a counterfeiter of that time was sentenced to death. He pleaded benefit of clergy, and he was respited, and instead of his original sentence was burnt in the hand. A woman for polyandry was similarly benefited by the same plea. I'm not sure what polyandry is. There was another word back here that I didn't know either. I'm going to have to look them up whenever I get off here. Polyandry was one, though. Was similarly benefited by the same plea. This power of claiming amelioration, I don't know what that word is either, I'll have to look that up, of sentence lasted in Massachusetts till the year 1785, when it was forever nullified by the laws of Massachusetts under the new United States. In Virginia, benefit of clergy was a constant plea and was recognized in all cases, save, as has been said, in hog stealing. In Maryland, branding was legal, and every county was ordered to have branding irons. The lettering was specifically defined and enjoined. SL stood for seditious libel and could be burnt on either cheek. M stood for manslaughter, T for thief, and could be branded on the left hand. R was for rogue or vagabond, and was branded on the shoulder. Coiners could for the second offense be branded on the cheek. F for forgery. Burglary was punished in all the colonies by branding. See, I actually kind of agree with that. You steal my shit, I should be able to brand you, motherfucker. Some of these crimes actually I could see deserve branding. By the provincial laws of New Hampshire in 1679, a burglar was branded with a capital B in the right hand for the first offense. See, I kind of like that too, because you know who's a thief. Like, I work at a grocery store, so if I see someone with a brand in their hand, it's like, oh, this motherfucker's going to steal. I'm going to watch this guy. Sorry. Is that evil? Probably. We're not all perfect. In the left hand for the second. And if either be committed on the Lord's day, his brand shall be set on his forehead. By Governor Eaton's code of laws for the Connecticut colonists, and punishment was equally severe. If any person commit burglary or rob any person on the Lord's day, he shall be burned and whipped. For a second offense, burned on the left hand, stand in the pillory and wear a halter around his neck in the daytime visibly as a mark of infamy. A forger of deeds could be branded in the forehead with the letter F, while for defacing the records, the offender could be disenfranchised and branded in the face. A forger was branded in Worcester in 1769. A man who sold arms and powder and shot to the Indians, so selling firearms to natives, was branded with the letter I. Counterfeiters were branded and often had their ears cropped. That sucks. There's probably a lot of people walking around with no ears, man. You can't hear shit, and you're talking to them, and they're, huh? A conviction and sentence in Newport in 1771 was thus reported in the daily newspapers. Quote, William Carlisle, I actually knew some Carlyles, and ironically, he got his ear chewed off by a pig. His name was Brother Bruce. He went to our church. He fell, and this evil pig came up, and he hurt his leg, and this pig came up and chewed his ear off. Man, pigs will fuck you up. They're mean little creatures, and they don't care whether you're the owner or not. And then one time, my brother was working with him on his farm, and this pig came up and tried to ram him, and he had a hammer in his hand, and he's just like, fuck you, pig, and just hit the pig in the head with a hammer. Had to hit him twice until the thing was like, oh, I don't fuck with this dude, you know. William Carlisle was convicted of passing counterfeit dollars and sentenced to stand 1 hour in the pillory on Little Rest Hill. Next Friday to have both ears cropped, to be branded on both cheeks with the letter R. To pay a fine of $100 and cost of prosecution, and to stand committed till sentence performed. In Virginia, many offenses were punished by loss of the ears or by slitting the ears. Among other penalties decreed to deceitful bakers, dishonest cooks, cheating fishermen, or careless fish dressers was to loose his ears. Truly, long hair and wigs had their ulterior uses in colonial days when ear cropping was thus rife. Romantic old tales of life on the road tell of carefully hidden deformities, of mysterious, gauntleted strangers, whose hands displayed, when revealed, the lurid brand of past villainies. Life was dull and cramped in those days, and there were diversions. When the breeze might lift the locks from your friend or lover's cheek and give a glimpse of a ghastly hole instead of an ear, or display a burning letter on their forehead, when his shoulder under his lace collar might be branded with a rogue's mark, or be beneath a velvet doublet with the scars and welts of fierce lashes of the cat of nine tails. Brand and Brank have passed away. The stocks and pillory no longer grace our village greens. Or curse, I would say. We pride ourselves on our humanity, our justice. Therefore, it may be well to note that we have now in the United States the most extreme code in the entire world in regard to capital punishment, 62 crimes punishable by death. A bill is before the Senate to strike 16 offenses, but from our brutal list, Belgium, Holland, Brazil, Italy, Portugal, Guatemala, Venezuela, and Costa Rica have wholly abolished the death penalty. In cruel Russia, the death sentence has been since 1753, never pronounced save for treason, while China has only 11 capital offenses. Yeah, I wonder how that is now. We've had adhered to absolute English laws, while England has done away with them and has now only 4 capital crimes. It is certainly surpassing and even mortifying to know that in Maryland, setting fire to a hayrick is to this day punishable by death. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, that concludes our last episode of Torture Devices in the series. I hope you all enjoyed. There will be a playlist at the end of this video, so if, like I said, you're into the macabre subjects of torture or anything like that, you can catch up on the other episodes. And this inspired the new Salem Witch Trials series, which I'm doing, and I'll get back to. But yeah, like I said, I do have a interview episode to look forward to. We are now on BitChute. YouTube is our newest. We're on YouTube now, so if you don't hear from us from YouTube, we're in YouTube jail. And if you can also check us out. You can check us out on Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcast, and Radio Public. And I know it doesn't seem like much, but we get paid a penny for each listen pretty much on any of those sites through my sponsor, Anchor. So yeah, that'll be putting forth saving money towards a splicer, which I plan on getting soon. So that way me and Sammy can do podcasts with both have microphones, instead of having to share one, sadly. But podcasting's not cheap, man. People think like, oh, he's just doing it for the money. Dude, I started podcasting earlier this year, and you put more money in than you get out. I made $1.55, and I'm like on episode 80 something. This is a love project for me. But yeah, so and it cracks me up too. Like, oh, he's in it for the money. Why would I choose like literally the hardest subjects to cover, like conspiracy theories? My podcast is literally Conspiracy Corner Podcast. Like, if I wanted money, I would be covering pop right now. Or politics or something, something mainstream, not literally conspiracy theories, which are being discriminated against like crazy in 2021. But that's all she wrote. I hope you all have a good day. Catch you later.
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.